Here at XLN, we work exclusively with small businesses, and we're committed to helping them in any way we can. Our CEO and founder, Christian is passionate about helping small businesses. Christian's a serial entrepreneur with a proven track record of setting up small businesses. In this series, we follow him giving advice to the small businesses of Great Britain. Russ Gunning founded the Glasgow Philharmonia Orchestra in 2012 after realising that the average cost for beginners to play within an orchestral environment was simply too restrictive. Tomorrow's talent is being held back today. It's simply not right. It's something that has to change, and luckily for all budding musicians out there, Ross is determined to do something about it. His vision is clear. He wants to change the situation and fix the problem. Ross has found a way to nurture brilliant talent without financial barriers closing the doors. It's something we can all get behind. And as you'll learn in this film, Christian really bought into Ross's enthusiasm and vision. Ross wants to help young musicians get a break in the industry and to help bring orchestral music to a wider audience. But to do this effectively, he needs to take his business to the next stage. He's doing brilliantly well, but keeps hitting brick walls that stand in the way of progress. He wanted to talk to Christian about the building blocks he could put in place to help build his business up to the next level, to overcome those barriers, and to make his dream of nurturing rich talent without a rich price tag a real possibility. Here's what happened when Christian met Ross.
Company structure is, most of the cases you either do, you're a sole trader because there's no advantage to being a limited company, or you're a limited company. The difference is essentially with a limited company, you just protect yourself as an individual. Whereas if you're a sole trader and you go bust and you owe money, they can come after you, make you personally bankrupt, or take your bicycle or your house or whatever it might be. When you do a limited company, investors or creditors, people lending you money, knows that, well, there's nothing in the company, so if I'm going to put some money in, I want a personal guarantee from you. In which case, you're personally liable anyway. And that's often the situation for a small businessman or an entrepreneur starting out. You sign personally, so you gamble everything. If you have a house, you put that on the line. If you have a pension, you put that on the line. If you have savings, if you have anything, that's on the line. A lot of people forget that every day in an entrepreneur's life is, I'm gambling with everything I own. My kids are on the street, and therefore I gotta make it work. And that stress and worry and so on is, on the one hand, a good thing because it drives you. On the other hand, it also forces you to watch the pennies, keep your budgets low. Let's say 3, 4, 5 years from now, you're super successful, you're doing 30 gigs a year, you're doing Wembley Arena on your own twice a year, etc., etc. The company is making money. Do you want to put it in your pocket? Do you want to give it to charity? That is what you got to keep in mind when you decide the company construction. I don't think there's anything bad in making a profit. I think it's, you have a limited company and that trades as. So you could have a limited company called the Glasgow Philharmonic Orchestra Limited, trading as Glasgow Philharmonic or whatever. Or you could have Russ Gunning Limited, trading as. Okay. Again, the benefits having another name, trading as, is that if something went wrong and you had to close that company, it isn't Glasgow Philharmonic Orchestra Limited going into liquidation. It's some other company, but Glasgow, the orchestra continues. Yeah. Ticket sales will take care of themselves. If it's a good product, it needs some promotion and so on, but it sounds like you guys are selling out. Okay, so that might mean you may think about, can we put 2 nights on in a row? Because once you're set up, right? So, and the price of your tickets will naturally go up, but I think in line with the spirit of the whole project, you always want to keep it accessible for everyone.
Yes.
And you'll have leftover tickets. I don't know whether you do rehearsals. So, you know, schools and so on might be friends of, and so they can bring a sort of year 4 or whatever, and they can come for an hour or so and watch rehearsals if they have, say, a music class or extracurriculum sort of activity. They can go and see a proper orchestra play, and, you know, just, you know, to keep it alive and the interest in young people, but also to get maybe some schools involved and that sort of thing. I don't see why you couldn't do some DVD sales or something, just because wouldn't mom and dad like to have a DVD of their child playing this whole orchestra? Then you've got your friends off, and again, you should start it because it's a long, slow burn. You start with your musicians, you know, they spread the word, they ask their parents, please can you be, because it kind of helps me, you know, get gigs and so on. So you get those, and then you ask those and say, look, please spread the word. It's not something you can rely on. It won't be meaningful money for the next couple of years, but it takes time to gather pace. So then you get into more of the commercial funding. You know, how can you get money from, I guess, companies to, you know, do this or support it in a period of time. So companies would want to, you know, there's kind of two ways. One is the company has its brand or logo or whatever associated, so Glasgow Phone is supported by, and that's always sort of goes hand in hand. So whenever you guys are mentioned, the company is mentioned, and that's sort of called brand impressions. So people see this, and that's good, and it's a question of what's the reach. And then the other thing is that the company can use it internally, but also externally. So they can say to all their employees, look, we're not such a big bad business because we support this. And if it's a local business, so if it was a Glasgow business, say, and actually once a year, we'll put on a concert and all the employees can go to it. So you can use it that way as a company. The other way you can use it is sort of a little more outwards in social media and other ways, and say, we support this. These are some of the things we do. So a lot of companies support charities and so on. And so you can have I think a headline sponsor, and that's an annual or for 2 years or 3-year commitment. And then you can have, as part of that, you can say, well, each gig has, say, 3 or 4 second-tier sponsors. And then you may have other little sponsors that may, you know, a local printing company may have done the catalog or whatever it is, and they've done it for free or at cost, so there's a mention for that catalog sponsor. I run into a lot of, you know, young or new entrepreneurs, and of course one of the things that characterizes an entrepreneur is a lot of enthusiasm, optimism, yes, let's go, they see opportunities, but what it does also is it confuses, or you lose focus. Where do you see this business in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time? What's your end goal with it? And then it's saying, okay, well, if that's my end goal, you always sort of keep half an eye on that, because it's kind of like it's your guiding sort of lighthouse. It's kind of over there, which means it certainly isn't over there. So if anything comes up opportunity-wise, that's sort of, yeah, it's sort of over there, it might be here, and it's not quite there, but it's on the way, great. Yeah. But if it's over here, you can just go, no. Yeah. And that is, it's so hard saying no. It's much easier saying, yeah, we'll do that, and yeah, great, great, great. But sometimes you make more progress by focusing and actually saying no to stuff, and that's the right thing to do, than to say, yeah, we can do it all. Because as you, and this becomes more and more in focus as you get more successful. Because as people hear you, they'll go, oh, we were thinking, you know, would you like to do this? And if it isn't, there's my lighthouse. If it isn't in that direction, it's just, sorry, can't do it. If somebody came to you and said, I'll write you a check, what would you want it to be for?
Allow us to do what we do and have deposits for the venues and stuff. I'd be looking at roughly £2,200 for the year, which allows us to pay each deposit of each venue, because we know the ticket sales will cover the rest of the venue. If I can get that, then it means I can plan a full year of creative stuff, which means I've got a year to advertise the thing and market it and do the press for it and do all that. If I can get that to the point that someone's going to pay that kind of every year and get whatever the exposure back they want, then it's perfect at the moment.
Well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you the £3,000 for this year, and I'll give you £4,000 next year, and £5,000 the following year. So I'll support you for the next 3 years if you wanted. We'll help you with some of the web stuff if you need it, or video James can help you with, and so on. You're doing, I absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. And I'd love to, you know, not only support that, but also help you to the extent I can, you know, on your journey to making a world famous philharmonic orchestra. Russ is a typical young entrepreneur, and I was bowled over by his enthusiasm and his achievements. In essence, Russ provides an opportunity to young and struggling musicians. I had no idea just how hard it is to make it as a musician. People go through a conservatoire for 4 years only to find that with their education they can't get a placement or job in an orchestra. They can't even get experience playing in an orchestra. And that's really where Ross comes in. He's created the Glasgow Philharmonia Orchestra, and it allows young people to play in a 60-piece orchestra for free and gain valuable experience. One of the things that really struck me with Ross was how he'd been able to build this over the last 3 years really on a shoestring. He lives hand to mouth, day by day, week by week. He can barely book venues in advance because he doesn't have the funding. So I was so enthused by his commitment and his dream that I did something I'd normally never do. And that was, I decided to back him on the spot. So XLN is proud to be behind the Glasgow Philharmonia Orchestra for the next 3 years. That should allow Ross to build a great business and provide fantastic opportunities for young and aspiring musicians in the Glasgow and Edinburgh area. So this is good for Glasgow, good for Edinburgh, good for young people, good for Scotland, good for all of us. What's not to like about that? So we are really proud to be sponsoring and supporting Ross and all those young musicians that are looking for a break. Together, we are XLN.
Oh, great. I think we both relate to each other really well. We're both the same kind of people.
have a drive. I was just saying I do like 18-hour days. He was like, so do I, it's not a different thing. Entrepreneurs are all the same, I think. We've all got a creative mind. It's just putting that time and effort in. To be honest, the advice he gave me was keep doing what I'm doing. I'm creating a really stable way, and I'm a big realist, and he loved that, and he was basically saying that don't run before you can crawl, basically, and create that foundation. If I don't have that foundation, then it's not going to happen, really. So I think just keeping where I'm going, step by step, building blocks rather than just flinging everything at it, really. It's a really hard one because it's having that drive and that determination to do it. But if you feel you can do it, why don't stop yourself? Like at the age of 17, I never expected to be where I was now. So it's having that intention. If your intention's right, your goals are right, and your aims, and you're doing it for the right reasons. So I've never done it for the money side. I've always done it for the love and giving people that opportunity. And if you've got that drive and determination, don't stop yourself from doing it.
Together we are XLN.